Graphing quadratics.
I'm sorry, graphing quadratics? Okay.
Yeah. So the first one is y equals parentheses x minus 3 squared minus 4.
Okay. There are a number of formats that quadratics can come in. This happens to be vertex format. Vertex format is where y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, where h and k are the vertex. Okay? And when you're graphing a quadratic, the most important point, we know it's going to be a parabola. Question is where is its vertex? So if this is vertex format over here on the right, tell me what h and k are, because this is in vertex format, so we can immediately identify h and k. What's h?
H is -3. Or +3.
Positive 3. This says x minus h. So h would have to be a positive 3. And what's k?
K would be a -4.
Okay. So let's find that point. That's the x coordinate. That's the y coordinate. We know that it's at 3, -4. Okay, I'm going to label that 3, -4. Now, we know a few things about it. We know that it's a parabola. Does it open up or does it open down?
It would open up.
Correct. It depends on what A is, the sign on A. In this case, what is A?
In this case, A is 0.
It's 1.
Or 1, yeah, sorry.
Okay. In other words, we don't write the 1 because it's there, but it's still there.
Right.
It's positive, which means this is going to open up. Now, I only need 3 points to graph a parabola. Okay? I don't need the vertex, but the vertex is a very valuable point. That's the most significant point on the parabola. But any other 2 points will allow me to graph that thing perfectly accurate. Now, there are 2 different, let me tell you the easiest point to find. It's going to be the y-intercept. Okay? What is x going to be on the y-intercept?
0.
Okay. So what is y going to be when I set x equal to 0?
Y would be...
Arithmetic.
Okay, that's 0 minus 3, which is -3 squared, which is 9. Minus 4, which is 3.
Which is 5.
5, sorry.
4 is 5. Okay, so up here at 5 is where I know that parabola, 1/2 of it's going to go. Now, because the parabola is symmetrical about the line of symmetry, and the line of symmetry is an imaginary line that goes through the vertex. It's a vertical imaginary line that goes through the vertex. But the key thing about the line of symmetry is this point right there is the same distance from the line of symmetry as this point is. So what is it?
It's 3.
Well, the line of symmetry is at 3. First of all, this point right here is what? The point that crosses that y-intercept. What is that point?
0,
0, 5, okay. And so how far away is 0 from that blue line?
5.
No. Make your eyes look left and right. Not up
2.
and down. It's the difference between the x-coordinates. This blue line is x equals 3. So what's the x-coordinate of this point over here?
That would be 3 or 6.
Okay. What's the y-coordinate of it?
5.
Exactly. The y-coordinate doesn't change. And there you have your 3 points, and you've graphed the parabola. Now, let's take the same parabola and try to graph it using, instead of the 3 points that I picked, and I picked one of them to be the y-intercept, because to me that's easier. Okay? But instead, let's solve for what they frequently ask for, which is the X-intercepts. In other words, they may actually say to you, I want the vertex and the X-intercepts, which means I got to know what this point is and this point. And then I'll have the 3 points that will define this parabola in the same way. It's just I'll have a different 3 points. So how do I find those 2 X-intercepts?
You plug in a...
What's y equal to when you're on the X-intercept?
0.
So I can set y equal to 0. And now all I got to do is solve for x. Solve that equation. First step.
You square the -3?
No, that would actually make it harder, because then I would have to factor it back. How am I going to solve a... Whenever you have something...
Oh, do you FOIL it out?
No. Let's move the number to the other side. So we have this. With me?
Yeah.
Now I can take the square root of both sides. That's the key, is when you have this kind of a problem, you want to solve it by taking the square root of both sides. So what do you get when you take the square root of the right side?
The right side?
What's the square root of anything squared? What's the square root of 17 squared?
17.
What's the square root of x minus 3 squared?
X minus 3.
What's the square root of 4?
2.
Okay, that's half right. Remember, I'm looking for 2 solutions. I can see my parabola goes through the x-axis in 2 different spots. So what really is the square root of 4? Besides 2, what other number multiplies?
Oh, negative, positive.
Exactly, plus or minus 2. Now, what do I do? Remember, I'm trying to solve for x.
You add a 3.
Okay, so I got plus or minus 2 plus 3 equals x. Well, if I put in the plus, I get 1.41 plus 3, so x would be equal to approximately 4.14. And if I put in the minus 2,
Wait, so how do you get
Sorry,
4.14?
sorry. I've totally confused you. I was confused myself for some reason. Okay, if I put in, I was taking the square root still. I'm not sure why. So if I put in the plus 2, x equals 5, right?
Uh-huh.
And if I put in the minus 2, x equals 1. I was making the problem harder than it was. So this point right here is what?
Which one? That one?
One on the left.
That's 0, 1.
Remember the x
Or
coordinate?
1, 0.
1, 0. 1, 0, 0. And this point over here?
It's 5, 0.
So that would have been another way to do the problem. And it really is half a dozen of one, six of the other. Sometimes they'll just say graph it, and if they want you to graph it, you can use any 3 points you want.
Mm-hmm.
If they say graph it and also find the X-Intercepts, then this is going to be the best way to do it, the way we just did that one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? All right, so let's erase everything that we're looking at here. And give me another one. I'm assuming it's going to be a different function. Go ahead.
Alright. Get it really quick. Alright, so y minus 4 equals parentheses x plus 2 squared.
What format is this in?
Isn't that intercepts? Or
It isn't. That
Vertex?
is another format, and if they give us a problem with intercept format, we'll talk about it. But this is very close to vertex format. I only have to do one thing to get this in vertex format, which is what?
Plus 4.
Yeah, let's put that 4 on the other side. Now it's in vertex format. Tell me what H is, tell me what A is, and tell me what K is. A is again what?
1.
What's H?
Negative 2.
Good. What's
And
K?
positive 4.
Okay. So, we're going to graph it the same way we graphed the other one. I'm going to start with the vertex. Where's the vertex?
Negative 2, 4.
Okay. Does it open up or down?
Up.
Notice what we're not going to have. What are we not going to have?
A X-Intercept.
Yeah. It's because this is a quadratic that does not cross the x-axis. In fact, if you solve this quadratic for the zeros, you will get imaginary numbers. So whenever you have a quadratic that only has imaginary, complex solutions, it's a parabola that does not cross the x-axis. So we can't set this thing equal to 0 and find 2 other points. So for this particular problem, we really only have one choice, and that's to figure out what that point is. At least easy choices. So what is the y-intercept?
It would be 8.
Okay.
0, 8.
Yep. Now we know that it's symmetrical, so there's a point on the other side that has to be what?
It has to be
What's the x-coordinate? Start there. Actually, the easy one is what's the y-coordinate?
8.
Okay. Now what's the x-coordinate?
Would it be negative 4, maybe? Yeah, -4.
Be more confident. You know this stuff. I mean, you can figure it out. I can tell. And there you go. I've got 3 points. That's all I need. I've actually had some teachers ask students for 5 points, which is a little ridiculous because 3 points mathematically determine a parabola. It's like saying, give me 3 points on a straight line. Well, a straight line is determined by 2 points. You don't need a third point.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's the next one?
Okay.
Yeah, and if there's secondary and third type questions on these, tell them to me before I get it erased.
Okay.
I'll leave this vertex format up there. As long as you mentioned it, what is the X-Intercept format?
Can't really remember.
Well, it's actually pretty easy. It's y equals a, and believe it or not, that's the same a. Only this is x minus p times x minus what? Q. They don't use h and k because h and k mean the vertex.
Mm-hmm.
This is the x-intercepts. In other words, that one problem where we had the parabola that went like this, its equation would have been y equals x minus 1, because one of them was at 1 and the other one was at 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the other one, a was 1, so a would be 1 here also. So when you have X-intercept format, it's really easy to figure out where the intercepts are. They're at 1 and 5. What I don't know is the vertex. So I have to go to some trouble to find out where the vertex. Actually, I do know where the vertex is. Let me retract that statement. If I draw my line of symmetry between 1 and 5, what is the x-coordinate of the vertex?
The
This is 1, this is 5.
x-coordinate would be 2, or...
What you do is you add those two numbers and you divide by 2.
Okay.
And that'll handle all positive or negative numbers. You add the two numbers and you divide by 2. So the x-coordinate is 3. So now we know almost everything from the x-intercept format. The only thing I don't know is the y-coordinate. Well, how would I get the y-coordinate? Here's
plug in a 3 for x.
Okay, good. So if I plug in 3 for x, I get plus 2 times minus 2. That y-coordinate is minus 4, which is where it was on the other format also. So each of these formats have their advantages and their disadvantages. Okay? And there's another one called standard format. And have you had standard format?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just write it along with the first two so we'll know which ones we're dealing with, and there's different ways to graph all of them. When you have standard format, then you use minus b over 2a to figure out the x-coordinate of the vertex.
Mm-hmm.
There's standard format. So I don't know if you have any problems on that. We've got about 10 minutes. If you want to try to find a problem that it was not given to you in vertex format.
Yeah, I have one.
Okay, what is it?
Y equals negative x squared minus 6x plus 9.
Okay. So this is in standard format, and I got two choices. I can try factoring that, And if I successfully factor it, it's going to be in X-Intercept format, which is fairly easy to graph, right? I mean,
Yeah.
X-Intercept format, you have 2 points right off the get-go. Or I can try to get it into Vertex format by maybe completing the square or something like that. I happen to believe the easiest method of graphing it when they give it to you in standard format, you got to remember this. The vertex x coordinate, which I write like that, is equal to minus b over 2a. And notice that's the first half of the quadratic formula, right? Quadratic formula is x equals minus b plus or minus square root. Do you know this by heart?
No, not even close.
You should learn it. You're going to have to know it for all your college entrance exams. They don't give it to you. And you're going to have to know it for a lot of math problems also. But notice when I say it's the first half, that's what I mean. Minus b over 2a. So, plug it in. What is it here? What's minus b?
It would be 6 over 2 parentheses 1, negative 1.
So, minus 2. In other words, 2a is minus 2, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Which gives me a minus 3 as my x-coordinate of the vertex. Well, how would I get the y-coordinate?
Plug it back in.
Okay. Do so. What do you get? What's this become? It's 9, right?
Wouldn't that be, yeah, then it would just be 9.
Squared, which is going to be plus 9. I still got the negative sign in front of it. And then minus 6 times minus 3 plus 9. So simplify that.
Wouldn't it be a positive then at the front?
No. Here's what I got. Let me rewrite it. No parentheses that includes that negative sign.
Oh, yeah.
In other words, this is the way I'm going to write it. Whenever you substitute a number in for x, you have to use parentheses, particularly if it's a negative number. Otherwise, you're going to get your sign screwed up. In other words, this is the proper way I should have done it. Just straight plug it in. Now, get rid of your parentheses, so this becomes positive 9 with a negative sign in front of it. So it's minus 9. All of this part becomes plus 18. Plus 9. Well, that's convenient. Those cancel. The y-coordinate is 18. So where's our vertex?
It is negative 318.
That's the best way to get started. In other words, the standard format is the hardest one to graph. I already had to do a ton of math just to find the vertex. Okay? And so those are going to be the hardest ones for you when they give it to you in standard format.
So if you're graphing that, like an 18 isn't on the paper, like on the graph, how would you like graph those points?
You just put a point up there and label it. It's really your label that matters more than the shape of the parabola.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So let's find our vertex, and I'm going to make the scale of this thing anything I want, so I can call that 3, negative 3, and I'm going to call this 18. So here's my vertex. I'm just going to label it negative 3, 18. Is this thing open up or down?
Down.
because of that negative sign in front of the x squared. So it looks something like this, but at this point I'm still guessing on my other 2 points.
It would be y-intercept would be 9.
Yeah, in this particular case, when you have it in standard format, the y-intercept is that constant, always. Because the y-intercept means you plug in 0 for x. When you plug in 0 for x, the only thing you're left with is that constant. So we know that's 9. So that point is what?
0, 9.
And its symmetrical opposing point is what?
It'd be negative 6, 9.
Good. All right. You now know how to handle all 3 formats. And it's 7:30, so I'm going to let you go.
All right.
Blake,
thank you.
Good rest of your evening. I'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, you too.